Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're totally reframing how we look at the absolute foundation of our craft. We're taking the needle, which, let's be honest, most of us just see as a simple metal stick, and we're going to reveal it for what it truly is, an absolute marvel of microengineering. So if you've ever found yourself completely frustrated by snagged threads, stretched out fabric holes, or those knots that just refuse to lay flat, well, you're exactly in the right place.
Real quick, here is our roadmap for today. We're looking at the anatomy of a needle, the logic behind sizing and selection, the artisan's toolkit, some ultra-specific precision instruments, and finally, achieving mastery through mechanics.
Actually, before we get into the heavy engineering side of things, I want to anchor us with a quote right from our source material. The most essential tool without which hand embroidery is not possible is the needle. I mean, it's a simple statement, right? But it sets this beautifully reverent tone. It reminds us that taking the time to understand this foundational tool isn't just about avoiding a headache, it is absolutely critical if we want to elevate our work.
Okay, let's jump into Section 1, the anatomy of a needle, breaking down a precision instrument.
Now, when you really zoom in, this tool breaks down into three distinct, highly engineered parts. You've got the point at the very tip, the shaft running right down the middle, and the eye at the top. Once you start seeing it as this three-part system, the whole logic of embroidery just sort of unlocks for you.
Let's look closer at what each piece actually does. The point isn't just sharp or dull, it's specifically engineered. It's designed to either effortlessly pierce through tightly woven fabrics or to glide smoothly between the existing threads of an open weave. Then there's the shaft, basically the body of the instrument. The length and thickness of the shaft completely dictate the friction you're going to feel as you pull, how deep you can plunge into thick materials, and its ability to hold wraps of thread. And finally, the eye. It's got to be perfectly sized for specific thread thicknesses, but, and here's the trick, it has to do that without weakening the structural integrity of the shaft right below it.
Moving on to Section 2, sizing and selection logic, understanding the numbers and the equation.
All right, the crucial thing to grasp here is the inverse logic of needle sizing. And yeah, it seems completely counterintuitive at first. Your thicker, heavier needles, the ones you grab for really robust work, they actually use the smaller numbers, typically sizes 1 through 5. But then as the needles get finer and more delicate, the numbers climb higher, all the way up to size 28. Now, our sources point out that needles are often sold in assortment packages, like sizes 1 to 5 or 3 to 9. That's done specifically to give you a complete working range within a certain weight class.
So, to take all the guesswork out of those confusing numbers, we use what we can call the equation for selection. It's based on 3 distinct pillars.
You literally just follow these 3 steps to solve the equation. Step 1, evaluate the material weight, meaning the thickness and the weave of your base fabric. Step 2, determine the required fineness. Basically, how intricate does the final detail of your embroidery need to be? And Step 3, identify your thread kind and its specific physical properties. So say you're combining a super delicate silk thread with a sheer chiffon fabric. Plug that into the equation and it dictates that you absolutely need a very fine, high-numbered needle. It's just pure logic.
Up next, Section 3, the artisan's toolkit, categorizing the distinct needle families.
Meet the crewel. Think of this as the universal standard. It boasts a sharp point to effortlessly pierce tightly woven fabrics and a long, slender eye that honestly makes threading embroidery floss an absolute breeze. It shares the same foundational shape as your standard sewing needle. Really, this is your baseline. In fact, our source explicitly advises use a crewel unless a pattern explicitly tells you otherwise, with sizes 7 and 9 being the most popular go-tos.
Now, in stark contrast to the crewel, we have the tapestry needle, or the blunt weaver. It has a slightly shorter shaft, a large eye, but the real star here is the blunt, rounded point. Why make it blunt? Because it's literally engineered to navigate the open holes of wools, matty fabrics, and Idita cloth. That blunt tip safely slips between threads without splitting or snagging the existing woven structure. So if you're doing town thread work like cross-stitch, this one is absolutely essential.
Then we have the milliner, also widely known as the straw needle. This is your knot master. It's got a sharp tip and a very long shaft, but its defining trait is super specialized. The eye and the shaft are the exact same size. Unlike most needles where the eye kind of bulges out slightly, the milliner has a totally uniform profile from top to bottom.
And let me tell you, that uniform width is a literal game changer. Think about it. When you wrap thread around a standard needle and try to push that wider eye bulge through tight wraps, you hit a friction point. It blocks the thread and completely ruins the knot. But the uniform width of the milliner, it eliminates that friction entirely. Your thread just glides smoothly off, giving you flawless bullion and French knots every single time. It's honestly a perfectly engineered solution. Now, when things get really tough, you call in the heavyweight. The chenille needle is an absolute beast. It combines a massive overall size with a long eye to accommodate extremely thick threads. But unlike the tapestry needle, it's got a sharp point. This gives you the heavy-duty piercing power you need to safely drive thick threads through heavy fabrics without bending the shaft. It's exactly what you want for mirror work or securely tacking couched threads.
Moving into Section 4, Precision Instruments, Sharps, Betweens, and Beating Needles.
Let's look at 3 highly specialized tools that round out the kit. First, the sharp. With its sharp point and small eye, it serves as a highly functional standard sewing needle, and it's fantastic for tight, standard embroidery. Next is the between. Structurally, it's basically identical to the sharp, but significantly shorter. And that lack of length gives you quicker, much tighter control for highly detailed, localized, intricate areas. Finally, the beating needle. This is an ultra-fine, very long needle engineered exclusively with a microscopically tiny eye. It's designed for exactly one job, passing thread through the minuscule openings of small glass beads.
So, bringing everything together right here, you can really see how these distinct tools solve highly specific problems. The crewel handles your general work, the tapestry safely navigates counted threads, the milliner absolutely rules the knots, and the chenille takes on all the heavy lifting. Trust me, mastering this selection logic is going to save you hours of trial and error.
Finally, Section 5, Mastery through Mechanics, elevating simple stitches to artistry.
As we've seen throughout this whole explainer, a needle is never just a metal stick. No, it is a highly engineered solution to a physical challenge. Matching the correct point, eye, and shaft to your fabric and thread isn't just basic prep work. It is the absolutely critical first step to elevating your craft from making simple stitches to producing true artistry. Because when you stop fighting your tools and start leveraging their mechanics, your work becomes cleaner, smoother, and honestly, vastly more enjoyable.
So armed with the precise equations of sizing, a deep understanding of needle anatomy, and knowing all these distinct needle families, how will you choose your next precision instrument to elevate your own embroidery? The next time you sit down at your hoop, don't just grab the closest piece of metal. Calculate your selection and watch your artistry totally transform. Thanks for hanging out with me on this deep dive into the foundational tool of our craft.